evening, everyone. Thanks for everyone coming to eVegas. Thanks to CCP and thanks for the eVegas guys for putting this together and having me out. My name is Javajunky. I'm going to be doing the presentation tonight on Alliance Logistics and combat logistics. Couple of things here. First off, I'd like to thank, or I'd like to let you know that this is brought to you by Starbucks and Advil because I went on the pub crawl last night and I totally paid for it. So kind of getting the overview here. Just going to cover a couple things, kind of give you a little insight about offensive logistics, what Goons does to run the Alliance. We support a number of things that allow our guys to go to war. We keep everything running. We keep the lights on, so to speak. Kind of give you a little bit more about the statistics, some of the stuff that we do. We do a lot of moving of a lot of different products, equipment, fuel for the war machine, basically. Some of the web tools that we use will kind of give you guys a little bit of insight on some of the web tools we have, which are really awesome. Then we'll also go into a little bit about SOV warfare, before, during, after, from an Alliance perspective, the different things that make it all possible. And then logistics as a strategy. Some of the things that, when you're on the offense or you're on defense, what logistics can do can really make the difference in the outcome of a fight. So, just kind of give a shout out to my GSOL team. There's a lot of us. The core of the team, our leadership team, we have a pretty big leadership team. We cover a lot of space and we do a lot of things. So what we end up doing is we create this directorate level that's pretty robust, and all these guys just do an awesome job. Arcamina's been around forever. She's like our den mother. She keeps us in line. Goss handles a lot of our web development. We've got our special projects guys like Minus and Kismetier, and then we've got all the guys that are out there in the trenches getting all the work done in the environment. What do? Well, we do a lot of different things, and in real life equivalents, we act like the military Sea Lift Command. Another one, we act like FedEx Expedited Delivery Services. Another area, we're the combat engineers. We're the Defense Logistics Agency, and at the same time, we're like ExxonMobil. So, when you try to break it down, the principal driver is and how we get involved in this is the rights and permissions that we have to work with and that are given to us by CCP. Everything we do puts us in contact with a lot of valuable assets. So, the way this organization is formed is we've only got a certain set of permissions that CCP gives us, so we're most efficient if we put all these guys in one group and have them servicing the portfolio of services. So, in terms of attributes, asset security is always the premium item on our list. We take a pretty painstaking effort to screen the people that we allow into the GSOL organization. We give these people's name to our security guys, and they do all their OPSEC stuff to check them out. Somebody may knock on your neighbor's door and ask about you. I don't really know, but that's kind of their shop. We'll go to your CEO, and we need your CEO to come to us and say, he's really a contributor. He makes a difference in the organization. He's been with us for a while, and we're pretty strict on what we do to allow people into the organization, only because, as you see sometimes in Eve News or the Matani.com, the preferred website, you'll end up with these thefts, and they can cripple, and they can just basically knock the wind out of an alliance. So it's pretty important. We are mostly an older crowd. A lot of us are technical or professional backgrounds. We do a lot of different things. Where sometimes we can be considered a little OCD, perhaps maybe a little bit of Asperger's, something to that effect. But we also have to have a lot of thick skin. When we get involved with a lot a lot of alliance leadership. We get involved with a leadership from other alliances in our coalition. We have to deal with fleet commanders. We have to, we have to deal with a lot of people with a lot of rage issues, or maybe some of them might be narcissists or megalomaniacs, or, but there's all kinds of personalities. And, one of the things is that, you have to be able to walk off a lot of the frustrations, because we literally on any given month have to execute thousands of deliverables to keep the Goon Swarm alliance running. So when that one jump bridge goes out, I want to get it fixed, but I'm not going to start eating my keyboard over it, because I'm probably looking at a 98% deliverable rate, 99% deliverable rate to keep things moving. I do put some things into this presentation, some suggestions. SOV and alliances don't get a lot of visibility in terms of things that would help make the alliance run a little bit smoother. They're not on the top of the radar. One of the things we thought about was, possibly adding some, or converting these items we buy in NPC space right now. We have to go to Iridia to buy SOV upgrades, and we have to haul them in. It's the only thing we have to go out to buy in low sec to use in null sec. So why can't we have those as BPOs? Additionally, I thought about, I'd like to see some, could those be an opportunity to create some content? Maybe we make them attackable. Maybe the devs can take a look at that, and from that context, and that turns into some small gang warfare opportunities. So we got a couple more suggestions, from a SOV perspective. Alliance logistics and management never gets any attention from the developers. So we kind of asked around in our group and said, hey, give me some ideas and we'll put them up on the board and see what people think. Let's talk a little about data. And when I talk about data, I'm talking about herding kittens, getting everybody doing things, managing our towers, and hauling all the stuff around to keep everybody and keep, basically, again, keeping the lights on. So the first thing I want to do is try to maybe give you guys a little bit of understanding of the amount of space that GSOL does have to cover. Our area and the landscape, it's pretty vast. I mean, we're from, we cover from Tenal. I mean, we've got assets in Tenal all the way down the period basis. So, when you look in there, we have other alliances that are smattered or sprinkled in there. Ultimately, GSOL, Offensive Logistics, had to acquire all those assets and then transfer them to the alliance member or the coalition partner that joined us. So at some point or another, GSOL has had their hands in all of this space, and we still do today because we manage the jump bridge networks. GSOL is very possessive about the transportation networks. We want to make sure, and my number one priority is to make sure that at any given time, if we need to move fleets anywhere, we can get them where they need quickly. So kind of a little bit about staffing. We do have a pretty sizable organization. We've got, on average, we have about 42 people. We've got 5 to 7 sub-directors at any given time, and they're all doing things. Especially our directors and our sub-directors, these are really great, like, go-to, you can hand them something and it gets done kind of guys. They're really the people that keep it running, because I can't be around all the time. But by having this great base of really talented people that know how to take ownership, we've been very, very fortunate in being able to execute pretty much the best service in the game. In terms of understanding the players, one of the things we also want to find out, we surveyed, and, we said, all right, where is everybody, and what are you doing? What do you want to do? Now remember, GSOL is an all volunteer organization, and that's a lot like trying to run Comcast, with people that are going to just donate their time. And it's great. It's like everybody loves us, but the second something goes wrong, we're kind of the devil incarnate, and we know that. But again, that goes back to having thick skin. So when we did our survey, we kind of turned around and we figured out, our player base or the people that are making GSOL run are have a relative balance to who we have in Goon Swarm. I mean, most of our players in the U.S. time zone. And again, this was taken right at the tail end of the Fountain campaign. A lot of our guys were down in Fountain, but that kind of gives you the indication of the number and the manpower of people that we try to put on the field when we go to war. Nearly, half of our GSOL guys, they were either dropping SBUs, they were doing sovereignty blockade work, they were doing territory control units, they were dropping towers, they were dropping stagers, or they were out running around doing things and running around in fleets when they were done with that. Another thing is how many hours we have people put into our organization. We do have a lot. We do ask that people stay active and stay involved in order to stay in the organization, and that's just basically for the reasons of security and permissions. We have to keep an eye on people. If somebody goes inactive, we become afraid that they could sell that account, and if they sell that account, somebody logs in and takes that account, and all of a sudden they've got rights and permissions to start offlining iHubs or something like that, which could do a lot of damage to the organization. So we do ask for a minimum participation, and honestly, we think 2 to 5 hours a week contribution is a nice little sweet spot. People that are doing a little bit more than that, that's great. We obviously have a lot of our guys are already equipped to fly Rorquals, jump freighters. So overall, we have a pretty good balance of experienced guys who just take ownership. So talk about our infrastructure. At any one given time, GSOL manages between 350 to 450 active towers. And so that does make us by far the single largest consumer of fuel blocks in EVE Online. When you think about that, we go through about, and this was an October 4 number, but we go through about 5.8 million fuel blocks a month. That runs at about a cost of about $70 billion. So basically, our fuel consumption rate is basically equivalent of a Titan a month. So when you think about that context, that's a lot of area to service, and that's a lot of fuel blocks you got to move around. So it kind of beckons the question is how much does GSOL haul to run basically almost half of nullsec? Well, we did a little bit of dry pencil math here when we looked at fuel blocks and hauling tech, and it's about 94 million M3, which works out to about 257 fully loaded jump freighters each month. And that's just to get the fuel blocks and the moon goo to its destination. That doesn't include all the hauling that we have to do to stage for warfare, or we have to reorganize because we've traded soft with somebody, or we've taken over territories and we've got to drop iHubs everywhere. Those kinds of things all start adding up, and so we do a lot of freight. Another soft suggestions, one of the things that we do, and I think a lot of corps and alliances out there have big problems and they'd love to see, is the ability to track who takes and who puts in stuff into silos. If it's a player-run event, we should be able to log it a lot like we do with this, a lot like we would with the secure audit log containers, and that would kind of give everybody a little bit more accountability. We're not asking for or I guess in this kind of suggestion, we're not really asking for CCP to babysit our stuff, but it would really help us to, figure out and track if, who did what wrong. And we have the ability to do that in a station with the secure audit logs, and it'd be really nice if we could have that ability to do it in space in our player-owned stations as well. And and that applies for all corporations, all alliances. It would just bring a lot of peace of mind and also track theft. I'm going to get into our web tools. I've got to tell you, we probably have some of the best web tools in the game. And the three guys that do this are Gossamer, Snakes, and Kilgarth. These guys, if we didn't have these guys and the services and the time they put in to help us manage all this space, we would be probably in a lot of trouble. We'd be a mere shadow of our size, because it takes a lot of organization not to just manage one alliance, but manage multiple coalition, manage a coalition-wide event. So we've got these tools, and it comes with Region Commander. Region Commander was designed, again, by all volunteer resources. We're able to create and track all tasks related to SOV warfare. And so when we go to war with somebody, we immediately start carpet bombing them with SBUs. Well, we want to track when those get dropped, what systems have them, what systems need them. We can, those are the kinds of things that we need to be able to delegate out. We need to do offensive tower operations. We got to drop stagers. We got to take Moongoo. We got to take Moongoo towers, R64s from our opponents. These are things that we need to be able to delegate and manage. So we've designed a system and post-software cleanup, because believe it or not, you saw that $70 billion a month fuel bill. I've got an internal goal here to cut that by about 20%, because we've now that we've done all that war from Fountain, we've got to look at managing our POS inventory. That's an actual cost, and being able to keep track of and delegate out all that space war, the post space war cleanup means you're gonna, that's less I've got to haul to keep towers up that nobody's going to use later on. So here's a screenshot of Region Commander. I've blocked out a few things in here, but this is from the top left corner. We allow somebody to enter an SBU data, enter a structure data, or enter a TCU by simply entering the system, and then it'll pop up a menu. But underneath it, on everybody's login page, they can see all the structure timers that are in our queue, whether they be hostile or whether they be friendly. And that's what that tool allows all of our logistics guys, alliance, coalition leaders, all the fleet commanders have the ability to log in during a conflict or even in peacetime and see if there's any events or activities that they can form a fleet for and take our guys out to generate some content. And that's a great tool that we used it extensively in Fountain. We've got a lot of great feedback. And again, our guys, our web dev guys, they're just freaking awesome. They're just, they're going to be doing a whole lot more with this, and we'll talk a little bit more. But one of the things is when we were doing this, we got into the whole Region Commander concept. Our guys really focused on minimizing the amount of effort that somebody had to do to enter the data. So, for example, here on the left-hand side, I've got 4EP. Okay, so you enter that system. All you've got to do is enter the ticker and enter online time for an SBU, so you can just immediately drop it, and all of a sudden, boom, it automatically starts tracking it. We have the ability to quickly remove an SBU. Our point in user interface design, or the focus of the web developers interface design, is to minimize the amount of time anybody that interacts with this tool, so they're focused on what's going on in space. That way we get blown up a lot, we get targeted a lot, we're getting shot a lot. So when we're in hostile territory, everybody looks at the GSOL guys, they see a blockade runner by, they see an easy target, and we are actively targeted. So getting in more in a little Region Commander, talk a little about sovereign SBUs. When you're carpet bombing SBUs throughout a region, we want to give the ability to, our Black Ops and our Recon guys, who are just absolutely awesome at getting out, the scouts, getting out and checking our systems to make sure that all the SBUs are in the right places. If there's an SBU that got hit and somebody missed an alarm, they can go through the color coding, and right now they're all red because nobody's gone out and checked them. But in a combat environment, if we were in a combat environment today, we'd delegate and the scouts would log in, or somebody from GSOL would go down to those systems and they would check on and check the system to make sure that it had the requisite number of SBUs delegated and assigned, so we were able to prosecute and tackle that system. We finished, and those were that first rounds of tools that we got from Region Commander that were just really awesome. I mean, it gives everybody across the alliances, across the coalition, the ability to log in. But in a post-Fountain basis, we started looking at it from a peacetime approach, and what we were really thinking about was we've got all these disparate tools. I've got this bastardized POS tracker app that nobody knows how to maintain, and it's super slow, and it's not really designed for 300 towers. I've got 17 Google Docs spreadsheets that are tied up and shared by multiple people. And when you're using more and more spreadsheets, you have more of a data integrity problem. So we started looking at Region Commander to see what we could do to manage the network and the infrastructure for ongoing activity. So first thing we did is we moved all of our POS data into there, and we made it really easy to use and work with. And again, Kilgarth, Snakes, Gossamer, all the work that they do to, this loads up and you quickly just type in the system and automatically, boom, I've got all my data. Those are the kinds of things that empower the guys that we have working in our organization to be able to go ahead and not say, I don't know what to do, I'm bored, nobody's got, that app doesn't work right now, I can't get into it. We develop and we support a great tool that allows our environment to continue to operate and thrive. And again, we were able to get more and more detail through our API scraping wizards to be able to go ahead and not only once we get the POS details in there and know when it's running out of fuel, but we're also able to go in and find out whether or not what's it got on it. What are the key items? Well, I can click on this tower and all of a sudden now I know, well, that's a neo miner. You know how many times somebody, back in the days, just a month ago, you'd always say, hey, what moon and planet is that Sino jammer on? Can somebody go cycle it so we can get in there and fuel those towers? Those are the kinds of things that we really, we really didn't have great resources to be able to give our guys the ability to quickly identify and go out and find what they needed. So, now we have the ability to see what's on the POS, and now we have the ability to drill down a little bit more and make sure it's properly stronded. We've got the ability to go in and see see whether or not we've got the proper configuration. That's incredibly important, and make sure, when a newbie goes out, hey, did you set it for Alliance, dude? Seriously. We don't have to send somebody out there to go look at it. We can just pull it up. We can see what's in the tower. We can see all the fittings that are on that tower. We can see how much is in the silos. Giggle. That's gonna kind of come back to bite us in the butt, but we'll talk about that in a sec. We can also see see if the tower's out of ammo, if it doesn't have any guns in it anymore. And then the next thing we did was, we tore our jump bridge tools apart, and we created a brand new jump bridge tool that allows somebody to just go ahead and enter in a couple quick letters and pull up a region. And now all of a sudden, I've got every one of my jump bridges, and I can see, which ones need to be fueled. So, those are tools, that we've got it all embedded into one platform now. And we've got multiple IT guys supporting it, which gives us the ability to have some, from a GSOL perspective, some business continuity. So in the development and the pipeline, dashboards, better tools for our guys, Moongoo auditing, when we empty Moongoo, we enter it into a spreadsheet, and, we're going to get that into the system, so we automate that, and we automatically calculate and we're able to do some stealth or theft detection, work post tracking. We incentivize our guys in our organization. The guys they're super busy, super active, and they're doing all the things for us. We actually give them Plex. I have no problems with paying for performance. It's a great incentive. It's a great reward. It's nice to be recognized. This isn't exactly the sexiest part of the game. So, but if we like to try to recognize the guys who are out there doing the heavy lifting for us. The other thing, and now that we manage a lot more SOV, a lot more region, we're going to try to develop staging inventory levels that trigger our guys so they can automatically generate new buy orders for restocking. We don't run out of fuel blocks, and all of a sudden somebody has to do a mad dash at 3 o'clock in the morning because we've got 7 towers that are 3 hours from dying because nobody bothered to go down there and make sure that our primary staging and fountain was properly stocked. Right now, our directors babysit all that stuff. Well, we want to give our tools so our directors are spending less time doing this administrative stuff, and they're doing the fun stuff. We do moon leasing internally within the Goons Forum organization. We rent out the moons to some people. We may expand that now. We're continually evaluating our moon portfolio and our moon strategy. We also do system rentals, and some of you guys might have heard where we are renting and we have space available. we're going to probably look to move and migrate that eventually. That'll probably be more of maybe a 2014 project. iHubs and their upgrades and what systems have them and what's installed in them. So we know what the system capabilities are, not only for our own purposes, but for managing how much we charge maybe a renter for that system. Well, it's already got the level 5 upgrade and style. Blah blah blah. Here's XYZ price. And then, I had Siphon alarms in here. I was kind of hot about that. I was walking in here all smug. I was like, yeah, we got this covered. This is not going to be a problem. Yeah, not so much. When we came back and we found out that Siphon alarms weren't going to have an API data pull, or they were going to report erroneous API data, we were just like, that just doesn't make sense. But, in terms of the Moon Goose siphons, I guess it's a good time to talk about it. From a Goon Swarm perspective, generally, we're for them. We actually like them. As managing the most most R64s in the game, I'm still a big proponent of the silo product that's going to come out in the market. I think it's going to get more ships moving around. Nullsec, which creates more targets, and that's fun content for everybody. It's already boosting our R64 incomes. If you guys are tracking R64s, go look into JITA prices. I think we're up probably a net 40 billion over the last week on our monthly revenues. Thank you, CCP. You just made us richer, and we appreciate that. But the unintended consequences are going to be fun. I'm not going to go into the details, but I've got guys that are just like their mouths are watering at this opportunity. I'm not really worried about it. From our perspective, we've got the staffing, we've got the organization. We'll probably implement a SBU monitoring system, just like we do with our towers, and we'll send them out to automatically refresh and probably randomly send people out to go click on them and check them. And one guy in one of those interceptors can probably fly around a couple constellations in 10 minutes and check all of our moons, and all of our GSOL guys are all going to have POS gunning rights. This is not really a problem for us. We've got the staffing to be able to mitigate the risks. We looked at it. We thought, and again, we like the Siphon idea, but we don't think that the size is right. In terms of the risk-reward balance of analysis, we also think they're too cheap. We think that we think players should make conscious investment decisions everywhere in the game. And at 10 million ISK per siphon, I don't know that's really a big risk. That's running two level 4 sites will get you four or five of these anchorable devices that they can go out there and just drop at random and not really care. From our perspective, we appreciate and we value the risk-reward propositions from the POS manager to the as well as the entrepreneur who might want to go out and drop and try to steal some product. The other thing about it is that we're okay with, and one of the things that we're kind of okay with is the whole not getting a notice in game and not getting a message. But we're a little concerned about the API reporting bad data. I don't know of any program that's really successful when it starts reporting bad data. And this sort of penalizes a lot of the guys out there that use these independent third-party tools like Eve Reactor to help manage your reaction farms. I know a lot of industry guys they run these reaction POSes, and they use these tools because they tightly manage their inventory levels of products that they buy because the market swings so much. So they only buy what they need, and so they want to be able to manage and be able to open up and view what inventory is in what tower. If you're going to break that silo data, you end up sending these guys around to randomly check. And I think there's a compromise. I think the guys that use the API data or they stay on top of their game, I think they should get good data so they can manage their products fairly. The guys who don't don't stay on top of their game and don't use the third-party tools, well, they're good targets. Again, we hope that, I guess this isn't fully baked in. We hope there's more discussion. There's a thread there's a thread knot out there on that subject right now. So hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that, or maybe we can swing some opinion. Again, trade. Did I get this one? Trading out one the way we look at this is we're trading out one AFK activity for another. And that's another reason why we think the API should exist. The API data should be correct. And it's, again, it's not going to hurt Goon Swarm. We've got a plan. We will execute. We manage our stuff probably better than everybody else. So, again, another soft suggestion. It'd be really great to be able to trade or transfer POCOs. We have this code that allows us to transfer POCOs. Why can't we have that code installed in iHubs, TCUs, control towers? We recently did some solve transfers, Fountain and the collapse of test. We provided rewards to the alliances that participated. One of the things we tried to track is how much time do we spend running around in space doing this stuff? And when we moved Fatal Ascension from Fountain to, from Fade Pureblind to Fountain, I kind of kept track of those numbers, and we spent close to 400 man hours executing that move because we had 2 to 3 guys on one side, and then we had 2 to 3 guys on another side. And what they're doing is they're unanchoring towers and they're transferring them over. They're having to get freighters out there. It's not. I mean, it's create. What we've got is we've got a lot of work for a very narrow subset of the player base, and again, we don't see a lot of love in that department, so maybe we can, maybe if there's something that, some quick and easy fixes that we can maybe get some of these things, to help out from the alliance logistics level, that would be really, really nice. So, SOV warfare, this part of the presentation, if we did not stay on top and have a great SOV warfare plan, if we did not take offensive logistics seriously, we'd be staring at a number of just Pyrrhic victories. If we don't have the ability to follow up and get what we need to get done, we're going to end up with a lot of problems. We can carpet bomb, or we can drop SBUs all over Fountain we want, but if we can't drop the TCUs in, if we can't get the iHubs done, if we can't make sure the fuel blocks are there, these are all the things, and you got the right people at the right time, and you're coordinating. All these things that that make SOV warfare happen are well past just let's form a fleet and go shoot stuff. So, software before, what's the end game? And I say that, it's kind of a silly statement, but it's actually rather true. When we got done with Fountain, about 2 days later, the Black Ops guys were like, hey, I need you guys to drop a tower, and we're hitting towers in Delve. And I'm like, okay, that's nice. Are you guys having fun? Okay, we're not going. Because there's no friggin' way we're going. I've got GSOL bodies just scattered all over the floor. Everybody's just burnt out. And I'm like, we're not ready. I'm like, I made no commitments to go to Delve. I'm sorry. You guys can, I'm like, here's some towers, here's some fuel blocks. You kids have a good time. And it wasn't that I didn't want to go. It wasn't that I didn't want to support those guys. It was we weren't prepared to do it. And part of managing the logistics process is making sure you have good definitions on what your deliverables are. Because when you tell people that they can take a breather and take a break, you need to be able to know that you can carry through on that. Timelines start to finish. Kind of get an understanding of how long you think you were going to be in. And by the way, we knew Fountain was going to be a grind. And I'll tell you, I had fun. I had a lot of fun doing the Fountain campaign. What are the logistics resources your allies are going to bring? And believe it or not, as much as we need to do everything, and we do a lot of this stuff ourselves because we're the ones typically dropping all the towers and TCUs, but it's nice to get alliance guys that can come in and maybe take ownership of some, if you've got partners in your war, getting them to be able to come in and say, okay, you take ownership of all SBU management of these constellations. And that frees up our guys to do more of the heavy lifting that, maybe it is moving iHubs around or doing some of the other work, like going back behind the scenes and maintaining the jump bridge networks. Identifying your staging and identifying a staging backup. In almost every engagement, our principal rule is don't put your logistics staging in the same location that you put your combat operations, because if you get hell camped, you can't get out and support those towers. And that was a lesson learned, just because we're the masters of doing the hell camps. I just didn't want that to happen to us. So when it's jump range possible, we get out of that station and we'll go someplace else. We'll work out of NPC space. We'll work out of a different system. I mean, sometimes we don't have a choice, but when you're sitting there making your plan for your logistics support, something you need to consider. Identifying initial stocking plan and making sure you have the ISK. Those are two things. Fortunately, Goons is super rich. For all those people out there who think there's people that do RMT in this game, RMT and Goons, you're incredibly wrong. And it's hysterical. It's hysterical to see you guys spurg about this, because we're very well managed. We have an awesome finance team. Minna, Wiesler, Arth, Kaz. I mean, all these guys, they just do incredible work for us, and they're incredibly gifted at managing the finances at GSOL. When I say, hey, I need 70 billion to stock delve for the SOV conversion down there, and it shows up in about 15 minutes, you have a good finance team. So sustainment, once the things get going, and again, all battle plans are great, and the second you enter into combat, they usually go out the door. But keeping to your plan is kind of important, and going back to your plan and looking at it is still rather important. Transportation networks, you got to make sure that those are maintained. Frontline staffing, the back end support, who's keeping the moon goo emptying that we already own? Who's managing the jump bridge network back in deck to make sure that stays up and running? Those are all the things that when we go out of town to go do some fighting, if we're going to deploy, we've got to make sure we've got all that stuff happening. What's our comms plan? Do we have all our communications in place? One of the things I did when I kind of came on board here and worked things out is I set up a comm channel for all of the CFC partner head logistics guys. So, we didn't have to go through Diplo or chase somebody down or go in a lot. We all have one Jabber channel where we all sit down and we can all kind of just reach out and manage things from SOV to, looking for an iHub, or anybody got a station egg we can buy. So the other thing, can't forget about asset security. When you get into warfare, you tend to hand out roles a lot. All of a sudden now, you've got 10 to 15 guys more than you typically have that have the ability to flip a station, or they can offline more people out there. They can offline TCUs. They can offline SBUs. Always manage your security risks by managing your rights and permissions. And then, recognition. Whenever Mittens sent out the big herf posts about, rah rah, go, we're winning, whatever, or we're not losing, we're not winning fast enough, whatever it was. I always made it a point to, grab the guys in GSOL and say, the people that were doing it right in GSOL, and reaching out to them and saying thank you for all the work that they've been doing. Some of these guys, they really do a lot of work for us, especially when we go to war. But it's fun work, but it's also, the necessary work. And sometimes it's pretty boring sitting in a post for 4 hours waiting for a Titan to bridge you. But these guys will do it, and they make the sacrifices to make it happen. So after SOV warfare, first thing, obviously is reevaluate your staging and your stocking plans. You got to make sure, any new territories you've made, or if you've lost territory and you've got to reorg, you've got to reevaluate that. If you happen to be the winner, which we usually are, you've got to set the expectation on rewards and how things get handed out. These things take time, and not many people can do them. As a matter of fact, You'll think it's kind of funny, but I actually don't have wallet permissions. I don't touch ISK. I just tell people to get us ISK, and it happens, but I got other people that do the buying. We compartmentalize. So when we start doing these SOV shuffles, I have many people that can do soft transfers, I may not have many people that can do iHub work. So you have to manage those permissions, and because things can go wrong. that takes time. So those, I've got 4 or 5 guys I've got 45 guys that I can, in the organization, I may only have 4 or 5 guys who can actually do that work. So clean up your space trash. And this isn't just me being eco-friendly, but, you set up all these stagers out in space and you start, you just tend to leave, it's really easy to leave them there, but they just start chewing fuel blocks. And the thing is the regular guys, they just don't know to stop fueling that tower and take it down. So you've got to be proactive, and we use Region Commander to kind of go through and say, okay, let's get with Cap Swarm and make sure there aren't any supers or any really big ships sitting in those towers, and let's take them down. Or if there's nothing in there, let's get them down, because that's 350 million ISK a month we're just throwing out the window for a tower we're not using anymore. Again, props are due, but the other thing is dealing with burnout. Usually, GSOL has the highest burnout rate. People kind of get into it and they jump into it like feet first, and they go absolutely nuts, and all of a sudden they just start realizing, oh my God, I'm doing so much work. And we start looking at their work post and we're like, dude, you did like 40 hours worth of work this week. Is everything okay? And it's nice, but these people tend to burn out. So, my advice to people and dealing with the people that burn out trying to do logistics is let them go. Wish them well. Hey, come on back when you feel like you can. I got 2 directors that have been on vacation for a few months since the beginning of the summer, and I'm that's cool. I'm like, when you guys are ready to get back in the game, come on back out. And if you don't, it's all right too. But when people start burning out, the worst thing you can do is run them off or keep pushing stuff on them, because remember, it's a game. People tend to forget that this is ones and zeros. It's a subscription. It's supposed to be fun. And if things stop being fun, you kind of got to push them away. Especially if you start seeing them getting ragey, getting spurgy, getting really upset about things really easy. And then, try to give people time off. Like I said, the example I used in Delve of us not willing to go to Delve 2 days after Fountain was done I was looking around and I'm looking at all the people that were actively involved, and I'm like, they need a break. I'm like, we will not have any of these people if we keep up this pace. So another soft suggestion: Alliance bookmarks. I know a lot of people out there would like to see them. I've heard it's been explained to me as to why they won't exist anytime soon. I'm not going to get into that. I don't know if I'm allowed to. But if not, nullsec is a coalition game now. And since it's a coalition level game, it's really easy to run out of bookmarks. So if there's something that we can do maybe on the interim basis to upgrade the bookmarks, or if there's something we can do to upgrade the court bookmarks or something like that, until we can get Alliance bookmarks, that I think that would be a nice compromise, and I think a lot of people would probably be strong advocates for that. So logistics as a strategy, this is kind of a little bit of a piece. This is kind of how I felt after 6 VDT. It's kind of a little bit of a long campaign. And when that ended, it was pretty exhausting. It felt big relief, but at the same time, pretty exhausting. So logistics as a strategy takes a little bit beyond the basic drop in SBU or stagers, tower operations, and all that kind of stuff. Those are the kinds of things that you need to acquire to solve. But what can you do in terms of wow, that's interesting. What are the things that what can you do with Solve to work it to your advantage? And the classic instance here, you can just look back on Fountain, and when Sort Dragon flipped us those 4 stations in Fountain, it was a huge blessing for us, because our enemies were freaking out that we had just acquired all that real estate, because Sort Dragon gifted it to us, and we worked out a deal, whatever it was. I don't know. I was just told to go take those stations, and so we all took off in our blockade runners and made it happen. But it was the best distraction ever. And that and the hard work of our caracal fleets, as much as they were ineffective in breaking down the big fleet walls, they were great in this situation at creating a distraction and building us time. The caracal fleets, we were throwing them out the door, we were throwing thousands of caracal fleets out there, and we're coming back in pods, but they were getting the job done. Black Ops, K-Color and his crew were out there working the field, harassing these people while they were trying to take SOV back. We were burning spies to flip an SBU. We were popping an SBU when they weren't looking, so it would reset their SOV. It was the best distraction for us to get our FCs, get our market guys, get our builders into action to go ahead and get us into the Baltic fleet, because we had to do a doctrine shift, and those stations our opponents became so obsessed with those stations and getting them back that they really weren't focusing on pushing us back into BDAC-D. We were in it to win it, and those and it was really just that was a great SOV tactic to buy us time. So when you have opportunities, you seize them. They can be small windows, but they're effective. So, another one, a lot of people talk about 6VDT, how that was a big thing, a fountain. I gotta tell you, the battle for J5A, as much as the losses that we took and the slugfest that we have, was absolutely some of the best I've ever played in EVE. Because it really was that kind of slugfest, and people were sweating, and we were getting hurt, and we were hurting them, and it was just this back and forth thing all week long. But it all came down to a small window of opportunity. We lost a tech fleet. We went up to try to save a gents. I think it was a gents or an SMA. A capital ship assembly array, and I think there was either a baby Titan or a baby Super in build. So the enemy hostiles went up to go ahead and take that fleet, take that back from us, or try to take that POS. And so we were able to burn another spy. We flipped an SBU. We dropped some dreads in. We we took the TCU down, and we were able to go ahead and quickly leverage that foothold and get that beachhead. It was part the spying meta, but it was also part of good knowledge on the streets. A big thing about SOV warfare and these big slugfests is we've got a lot of guys that are really thinking about the SOV mechanics, okay? And how do we leverage SOV mechanics to our advantage? All right, nobody likes SOV mechanics. There's nobody out there. I mean, when we were at this like line in the sand with test, I was happy as a camper because everybody was shooting at each other, and I didn't have to do a SOV war. I was like, this rocks. Go ahead, you guys kill yourselves, knock yourselves out, have a blast. Because SOV is not easy. I mean, I appreciate the balance and the necessary mechanics that have to give both sides, offense and defense, the ability to organize and defend, and the ability to make a concerted assault or a direct assault. But at the same time, as I recognize the difficulties that CCP has in trying to find that balance, but there's nothing that says that you cannot be on top of your SOV knowledge. And for us, that SOV knowledge sits at our fleet commander's level. That's great leadership that we have in our organization, where people are maintaining a good focus on that, and they capitalize on those opportunities. This all happened while I was sleeping. I didn't even, I woke up and I'm like, oh, we got J5A, sweet. But that's just kind of, the heads-up ball play and understanding your SOV mechanics. If you're an FC, if you're a skirmish FC, and you want to become a fleet FC, and you want to run those 250-man fleets, you need to know SOV, because you need to be able to recognize and identify when you have an opportunity to capitalize on it. And we're better at that than a lot of other alliances. Test made a number of mistakes, and it's not to say that they didn't have the knowledge. They didn't have the right people with the right knowledge at the right time. And that's really, it made a difference on a couple different occasions. So, nothing, you can't talk about Fountain without talking about 6VDT. And, and when we look at 6VDT, all those ships destroyed and all that thing, all the press it got, and all that, but the preparation for, that GSOL took to make that 6VD fight happen, we were there well ahead, GSOL is always ahead of the front alliance in terms of warfare. Chances are, if you see me in your SOV, you're about to have a bad day. Because if I'm in your SOV, there's only one reason you're going to find me in your SOV. And as a logistics guy, I'm about to take some property and take some real estate. So we're ahead of the group, and we're in there, and we're looking around, and we realize and we acknowledge, wait a minute, there's only two towers in this entire system. There's only 27 moons. I'm like, that's an interesting landscape. So what if I towered everything? What would happen if I just offensively towered the entire system? All right, what could I create? So I gave a shout to Mittens. I said, I want to tower every system. And so we called in dread fleets. We dropped dreads. We went ahead and took out the towers. They had crap stront timers on them, fortunately. I had a backup plan. I would bubble the crap out of them otherwise. But I dropped towers on every other moon in the system. And then, we got our and it wasn't just me. There's like 5 GSOL guys. When I say I feel bad, Orion Moonstar and Fievel and all these other guys came in and helped make this happen. And then, we created an environment that gave our enemy no place to get safe. And that was what we were trying to think, And I don't have any intel. I don't have any connections with N3, Nully, PL, or any other guys that might have participated in 6VDT. But for us, we were trying to think about how do we create an environment where we can make our opponents uncomfortable. And taking away the ability to give them a safe was one of our tactics. Even if I gave them pause, the one thing that came to my mind as a logistics guy is, okay, well, my opponent will want to jump in all his super capitals, titans, carriers, dreads, if there's no place for them to go and recap and recharge cap. So, did it give him pause? I don't know, but it was a good plan. And, even if it gave him pause for a couple minutes, it was good enough to influence a fight. And that's, so when you think about offensive logistics, it's not just about dropping the tower. It's leveraging what the military calls battle space awareness. So I do have one more suggestion. I would love, I think everybody in NullSec and all the alliances would love it if they would remodify the Rorqual Bay to actually include fuel blocks, or even mineral or any materials. But that's just another one that one of my guys threw up to me. It would make right now, if you feel everybody rides around in Rorquals, and you can basically fuel one tower at a time. So if we got a little bit more functionality of that ore bay, it would make logistics suck a little bit less. So I look forward to seeing everybody at FanFest.